Welcome back to These Things Are Written on this Wednesday. So glad that you're joining us again today as we continue to study Psalm 31. We are looking today at verses 11 through 15. And as we look at these verses, we are reminded of part of what we heard all the way back at the beginning. Remember, the three themes that we are looking at is the theme of refuge, the theme of deliverance, and also the theme of shame. Not wanting to be put to shame. Let's pick up our reading in verse 11. Because of all my adversaries, I have become a reproach, especially to my neighbors, and an object of dread to my acquaintances. Those who see me in the street flee from me. I have been forgotten like one who is dead. I have become like a broken vessel. I hear the whisperings of many, terror on every side as they scheme together against me, as they plot to take my life. But I trust in you, O Lord. I say, you are my God. My times are in your hands. Rescue me from the hand of my enemy and from my persecutors. This is the word of the Lord. We have heard yesterday the end of the prayer of confession that he gives, pointing out of how God needs to deliver him from his enemies, from his iniquity, his sin that is causing him to waste away. And now we kind of see a result of that sin. The result of sin kind of leads to shame. Now, as you read verses 11 through 13, we see that there are really different parallels in there that all kind of build on that idea of the reproach or the shame. We look and there are the first one, because of all my adversaries, I have become a reproach, especially to my neighbors, an object of dread to my acquaintance. Those who see me on the street flee from me. All of those talk about how he is really experiencing shame because of that iniquity. Now, we don't know when this was written. Perhaps it was after the whole thing about Bathsheba became public, and people saw him and were kind of ashamed that he was their king after hearing what he had done with Bathsheba and how he had killed Bathsheba's husband and all of that. Or perhaps it was after Absalom had started raising people up against David. Perhaps they were seeing David as not being those who were taking care of them, not answering their questions. Maybe Absalom's task was working. We don't know when this was written, but the psalmist is writing about how he is experiencing shame among the people around him. Each set of those grow until it finally ends at the last two lines of verse 15. And they scheme together against me as they plot to take my life. That's where it is ending. Those who are wanting to take his life, to overthrow him, to put him to death because of the shame and the sin that he has committed. But look at verses 14 and 15. What a statement of faith, aren't they? But I trust in you, O Lord. I say, you are my God. What an amazing statement. In the midst of all of this struggle, in the midst of all of this shame that is coming down upon him because of his sin and his wasting away because of that sin, he says, but I trust in you, Lord. That's how many of the laments go. The psalmist cries out to the Lord and then sees how the Lord is delivering him, how the Lord is with him, and his trust in God hasn't changed. Verse 15 builds on that. My times are in your hand. And he calls for deliverance again. Rescue me from the hands of my enemy and from my persecutors. So how do we apply this to our life? Well, maybe it's that when we look at when we are bullied, maybe maybe online or in person. And by the way, bullying isn't something that just happens in middle school. It happens to adults as well, at work or in their neighborhoods. Or maybe you are being put to shame because of something that you did, some sin that maybe you even committed, and people are turning their back on you. Or maybe you have been abandoned by someone and you are feeling like the enemy is winning against you from those outside forces which are trying to tear you down. May your cry be the cry we find in verse 14. But I trust in you, O Lord. I say, you are my God. May that always be our cry to the Lord. In the midst of struggles and difficulties, cry out and remind yourself and declare to him that he is your God. May we remember this and remember the work that God continued to do for us, all through Jesus, to give us that hope and the future here in this life, and more importantly, in the life to come. May God keep us focused. May God keep us trusting in him. Go in peace. We'll see you again tomorrow.